Imagine one quiet night, a young little boy was sleeping and suddenly he woke up to the sound of his mother screaming. He ran towards her to check what happened, and what he saw behind the door is something no child is supposed to see. He saw his mother screaming in pain, half naked and bleeding from mouth. An angry man was holding her neck down with one hand and the other hand was about to hit her when the little boy entered the room. The boy immediately jumped on that man and tried to push him away with all his force. Taken away, that angry man let go of his mother, said, "I'll kill you, filthy whore," and left the room. Few years later, that boy sees his mother singing to the same man and realizes that she is in love with him. Soon after that, his sister Laila was born. On her 12th birthday, the little girl Laila was debuted into Hira Mandi society. Her entire body was covered with jewelries and she was made to dance in a room filled with lustful men who were auctioning and negotiating price for her. Finally, when the auction got over, the boy Shanwas was shocked and angered because his little sister's virginity was sold to the same man who had once beaten his mother over a decade earlier. In Lahore's Hira Mandi, prostitution was a family business passed on from mother to a daughter publicly, unapologetically. What we see in cinema is a glamorized version, but the real story has far more darker tones that we can ever imagine. Recently, Sanjay Leela Bansali's web series Hira Mandi got released and I absolutely loved it. People all over the internet are obsessed with Aditi Rav's Gajakamani walk and Aurangzeb Tajdar's love story. But what we saw in the series, is that the real history? If yes, is there anything else we should know? If not, what is the actual history then? Hira Mandi has witnessed many phases. It was different during the Mughal period, changed after the Sikh period, and it changed again after the occupation of the British. During the times of Mughals, the Hira Mandi was called the Shahi Mohalla, which means the royal street. It was constructed nearby the palace for the sake of courtesans who was called as Tawais. Generally, Shahi Mohallas are misunderstood as the red light areas of those times, but that's not the real case. The kotas of Shahi Mohallas were the cultural centers of those times. The name Shahi Mohallas was changed to Hira Mandi during the rule of Raja Ranjit Singh. Hira Singh Dogra, who was the Prime Minister of Raja Ranjit Singh, invested and started a grain market in Shahi Mohallas areas because he thought it would be profitable to set up a grain market there, as many people visited that place to watch cultural programs. It's believed that he changed the name Shahi Mohallas to Hira Mandi. We can divide the women lived there into three categories. Number one, Tawars, who are also called as Kalavatin. They were someone who practiced and were proficient in arts like singing and dancing. They lived in higher quarters of Gotas and they did indulge in sexual activities, but only with the royal families. Number two, Takahis are Jandis. They were members of Kota, but they were ranked low because according to the social standards, they were not beautiful enough or not talented enough. So they were assigned to give sexual services for money like the red light areas of today. Men can come, pay and do the business. Third category, we have Kangis. This is a very interesting one. These women were secretly associated with Kotas because they were married and were believed to be from respectable families. They used Kotas as a place to maintain their secret love affair outside their marriage. So they paid money to the head of Kotas whenever they want to use the place. So the society of Hira Mandi was quite complicated that we cannot bluntly label it as the place of prostitution. Even though indulging in sexual activities was a common affair there, it was not exactly how we think it was. Francois Bernier, a French physician, political philosopher, traveler and historian who lived in India for 12 years, wrote about Tawars in his book Travels of Mughal Empire. They were not indeed prostitutes seen in bazaar, but more of a refined group of people advancing cultures of dance and music through their supple bodies. The Tawais were trained in music, dance and etiquette by the best masters of the time, and the women of Shahi Mohallas were a social status for the elite. Their presence in ceremonies were considered a statement of class and sophistication. So the Tawais were definitely not mere sex workers. The royals would send their children to them to learn the etiquette and ways of the world. They were literally the emperor makers as well as breakers. Hakim Mehdi, who became the Wazir of Awadh, owed his initial success to a Tawai Pyaro Bai who funded him with her money. Wajid Ali Shah, the king of Awadh, had a wife, Begum Hasrat, who was also a Tawai and she was a very good Kathak dancer. It's because of her Wajid Ali Shah learned Kathak and he made Kathak an important ethos of Awadh dynasty. Sikh ruler Maharaja Ranjit Singh fell in love with Mohan Sarkar, who was also a Tawaif, and finally married her against all the odds. Qudsiya Begum, the most favourite wife of the Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah Rangila, was also a Tawaif. It's believed that during his time, Nadir Shah looted Delhi, but Qudsiya Begum celebrated her birthday in a grand manner by spending 2 crore rupees in those days when the king could not even pay salary to the soldiers. Noorbai, a favourite Tawaif of Emperor Muhammad Shah Rangila, was the one who was responsible for how Kohinoor lost from India. She used to regularly visit the Emperor Rangila's campus, and there she got to see the precious Kohinoor diamond, which is then considered only a rumour at that time. Rangila used to keep the diamond hidden in his turban, which is why very few had ever seen it, but he could not hide it from Noorbai. He obviously wouldn't have been physically close with the women with his turban on his head. But Noorbai did not keep the secret. When Nadir Shah, the ruler of Iran, invaded Delhi, she told him about the diamond for 4,000 rupees, betraying the emperor. Not just that, she made Nadir Shah fall in love with her. She too played all along, but when it was time for Nadir Shah to return back to Iran, she went and hid in the house of her old lover, where the Persian troops could not find her. And that's why I said Tawais were the emperor makers as well as breakers. So even though they were giving sexual favors, they had high status in the society back then. So why the word prostitute has become more common for Tawais later? Well, the arrival of British played a significant role in that. The British could not understand the complicated culture of Hira Mandi, so as usual, when people don't understand something, they start labeling it. That's exactly what the British did. Instead of trying to understand the culture of Hira Mandi, they started labeling every woman belonging to Hira Mandi as prostitutes. No matter if she was a Tawaif, Takahi or Gangis, if she stayed in Kota, she was a prostitute. But this is not simply a lack of understanding of culture, there's definitely more to it. When East India Company came to India, they did not allow their employees to bring their families with them. In fact, the East India Company mostly recruited bachelors as its employees. William Dalrymple wrote in his book White Mughals that David Australoni, a British officer of East India Company, had 13 Indian wives. Charles Metcalfe, Governor of India at that time, also had many Indian wives. He wrote till 1857, though the British employees did not take good care of their Indian wives or sees them as their equals, they at least owned their sons born through these wives. But everything changed after 1857. After the Charter Act of 1813, the British Crown slowly started to take over the administration of India from the East India Company. At the same time, slowly the Orthodox Christian royals started to come in huge numbers, and for them, the culture of Tawais became prostitution. Parallelly, after the annexation of Awadh in 1856, Wajid Ali Shah, the ruler at that time, was sent to Kolkata, but Begum Hazrat, his wife, who used to be a Tawaif earlier, stayed back in Lucknow with her son. Even today, the students in Lucknow area study about her contributions in the freedom struggle. The Britishers could not understand how Begums and Tawais, being women, could affect their rule so much. Particularly after the crown took over, they understood the importance of making Tawais irrelevant. So in 1864, the British passed the Contagious Disease Act and stopped the movement of people into quotas. They accused Tawais to be responsible for spreading contagious diseases through their sexual activities. But at the same time, they took so many women from quotas to law houses in the name of physical examination and kept them there for mere sexual activities. And that's how the value of Tawais were reduced to Nach girls and prostitutes. Also, if we see the tax ledgers of Lucknow from 1858 to 1877, the highest taxpayers were Tawais. But even in those ledgers, they were named as Nach girls. One edition of the Punjab Gazetteer of 1883 states that dancing is generally performed by hired Nach girls and need not to be further mentioned here than to say it is very uninteresting and inanimate spectacle to European eyes. Even though some Tawaifs kept working because they had consistent monetary support from the royal families, most had to stop dancing and were forced to do sex work in secret. To be simple, what exactly British did was they eliminated the cultural and traditional aspects of singing and dancing from Tawais. Now what else is left for them? Offering sexual services. This is how Tawais transformed into prostitutes. Eventually in 1914, the British established a brothel in Hira Mandi to cater to the tired fighting British soldiers. Most of the buildings that left there now are from that time. And there's an interesting story of Gandhiji's interaction with the Tawaif. In 1920, Gandhiji met Gauhar Jan, a Tawaif in Kolkata, during his Swaraj fundraiser movement. Gandhiji, who was well aware of her popularity, asked Gauhar Jan to raise fund for the movement by doing a dance performance. She too agreed for that, but on one condition. She wanted Gandhiji to attend that event. Gandhiji did agree for that, but on the day of the event, he had to go to Nagpur, so he missed the event. With her performance, Gauhar Jan collected 24,000 rupees, but she only gave 12,000 rupees for the movement because Gandhiji did not fulfill his promise. Now in the 1950s, after the partition of India and Pakistan, the Tawais were legitimized as artists by a Pakistani High Court, which permitted them to perform up to 3 hours every evening. For Muslim countries like Pakistan, the entertainment industry is considered a low-grade thing for women. So it was the traditional performers of Hira Mandi who became the professional singers and dancers. Most of the early stars of Pakistani cinema like Noor Jahan, Mumtaz Shanti, Khurshid Begum are all from Hira Mandi. But that also changed when Pakistan became more Islamic under President Zia-ul Haq. From 1978 to 1988, President Zia made new laws that banned music, dance and other bad activities. Because of this, many families left Hira Mandi, leaving only the poorest women and refugees from Afghanistan who had no other option than doing sex work. And soon Hira Mandi became a place of shame. In 2016, the UN Development Council estimated that 12% of the women in Pakistani jail were there because of charges related to sex work. So what we see in cinema is far different from reality, but I personally feel like the culture of Hira Mandi is gone for good. Even though they had good social status in the earlier times, they still had to give sexual favors to the men. A girl child born in Hira Mandi had no other option but to become a Tawaif. And if they were not good looking enough, they were open to everybody on charges basis, literally like the sex workers of today. The lives of women living in Hira Mandi have always been romanticized as if they had any other choice.